as John Oliver would say, welcome, welcome, welcome to a whatever this is with Katya. I'm so stoked to have you today, Katya. I know that you're always busy learning or applying what you've learned to to our nonprofits that are eager to learn about HubSpots. What are we covering today? This is all about HubSpot for nonprofits, but we're going to be covering it in an interesting way, I think. So, for many of you, maybe you came to our last webinar where we actually revealed like the big three, the top three CRMs for nonprofits, but many of you didn't make it to that. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about a research project that Katya and Kelsey and other folks on our team did to identify the top three CRMs. Spoiler alert, we don't have to like hold back this time. One of those is HubSpot, and that's the purpose of this particular video, is to dive deep into HubSpot. So you're going to get to like see why we selected that with a live demo, which is going to be the bulk of our time together. And then we're going to go over a little bit, like Katya's going to walk us through, I think, two different
Three.
three. You are lucky. If you're watching this video, you don't get two for the price of one, you get three for this free video. So yeah, we're gonna go through like how an implementation actually works with HubSpot and some of the factors that go into that. So without further ado, let's dive into it. I'm Matt. For those of you who don't know me, I like to pretend that I have this huge following of all these nonprofit nerds that are just eagerly consuming. So probably you know me. So I'll just leave it at that. Uh, but you might not know Katya because Katya is the actual brains behind this operation. They're actually working on the work while I'm just talking about the work. So Katya is a technical consultant here, but also a marketing just badass, has a ton of marketing experience and applies a lot of that for-profit marketing tactics to our nonprofit clients. Although there's a little scar tissue built up, I think, from running ads for a decade.
I don't want to talk about paid media anymore.
Okay. Not this.
No more
Not
Facebook
this.
ads. I just can't think about it anymore.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's totally cool. But yeah, so happy to have Katya here. They're going to walk us through. They're one of our resident HubSpot experts, and yeah, we're gonna take you through it. So before we do that, let me just explain a little bit why we did this research project. Basically, we've been doing this nonprofit tech consulting for about 10 years now, and prior to that, just about everybody on our team came from really high growth nonprofits. And one thing that we found like over and over and over is that there are so many tech platforms out there. There are so many nonprofit CRMs, and they're all claiming to be the best, the easiest to use, the most affordable, the one that you should select. And the reality is, it's a little difficult to make sense of this really crowded landscape. So our goal was, I remember I was reading Wirecutter, and I was looking at a different something. I was consuming something, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just so appreciate." Actually, I'm gonna be honest. It was a wok. It was a wok, Katya. So I was like looking at which wok I should buy to make some great stir fry, and I was like, I just love how nerdy they are. They think about like durability, price. They're agnostic. They're not paid to do this. And I thought, what if we applied the same thing to a nonprofit CRM? What if we went through a deep dive process to identify the best CRM? So that is what we did. We compiled our team and we went through a 6-month process to identify the top three CRMs. And for different applications, they might be right or they might be the wrong choice. And we'll go over that very high level right now. What did we do in 6 months? Well, we did a lot. The first thing we did was we assembled the team. Katya was on that team. We had a bunch of other tech consultants here at CauseMic, but we also had other roles participate in the evaluation process because we didn't want to just have technical people. We also wanted to have some of our end users, like some people who play the marketing function at a nonprofit or the fundraising function at a nonprofit, to actually test out some of the use cases. We made a complete list of all the requirements that we most commonly come across when we're helping nonprofits select and implement technology. So we made a huge list of those, 47 of them to be exact. These range from all kinds of things like, hey, as a gift officer, I need to be able to see which donors recently made a contribution so that I can, initiate a thank you series or something like that. So we've listed out all the requirements. And then we actually narrowed down the list of all of the CRMs to the 22 that we kind of come across the most, that are most popular, the ones that we get put in front of all the time. And we're like, let's do a deep analysis and looking at each of these and comparing our requirements. And that was the second phase of this is we dug into it. I say we, but I didn't do any work actually on this project at all. Yeah, so Katya's like, that's right. So basically, they went through each and every single one of the requirements and looked at each CRM and evaluated them against each other. We basically scored each of these requirements on a 0 to 5. And it ranged from this functionality doesn't exist at all to this functionality is so easy to use and so natively built into the platform that it is the best at it. And so for each of those platforms, we ranked every single one of these requirements, and we ended up with a very interesting matrix, which I'll share. Here's a list of all of the different platforms that we evaluated each of those requirements against. You're going to see a bunch on here, including Razor's Edge, which is one of the ones I like to trash the most because it's the last time it was innovative was in like 1980 or something. But HubSpot has an integration with Razor's Edge. So if you want to stay in the Stone Ages and move to the future, this video might be right for you because Katya's going to talk about why you can get the best of HubSpot and maybe stay on that CRM. Okay, so this is what it looked like. This is what our spreadsheet, just a small little portion of that spreadsheet looked like. So you can kind of see which platforms were going up and down, and across on the rows were all the various functionality. And like I said, we ranked those on 0 to 5. And then we took those with the best scores. And we also evaluated the cost, we evaluated the implementation, but we also looked at something that's so often overlooked by our clients. And partly it's because they're getting sold a CRM by a CRM platform. And so it's really easy to implement. It's low cost. You won't need any additional staff and you're going to save all this time and raise all this money. And we know as having worked at nonprofits that's too good to be true. There actually is a cost to implement new software, and there is a cost to maintain that software. So we actually included that in our evaluation is how much does this platform cost, and how easy or how difficult is it to actually maintain as an organization. And that really helped us identify our top 3 picks. And again, if you were on our last series, you know what those are. But if you're new to this, these are our top 3. HubSpot, which again today is all about a deep dive into HubSpot. Virtuous, which is an awesome platform, and congratulations to Virtuous. They just raised $100 million in growth capital, so they're doing something right. I think they've got thousands of nonprofits on the Virtuous platform. We're not going to dive deep into why we selected that here, but we do have a printed out guide, which is pretty awesome, and you can get a copy of that on our website. And also Salesforce. Salesforce is a great platform for enterprise level nonprofits, and it's not for everybody, but it is for larger organizations, especially with Nonprofit Cloud and some of the changes that are happening. A lot of the nonprofits that are using Salesforce are on NPSP, and they are beginning to sunset NPSP, and they're kind of building a solution for larger organizations. So it might be a good time to evaluate if one of these other solutions is a better fit for where you are right now. Okay, so here's what we loved about HubSpot. Again, this is all about HubSpot. That's why you're on this video. And I will say that HubSpot is unique in this lineup in that HubSpot can be a CRM, and Katya is going to talk about that, like meaning it can be the place where you keep track of all of your constituent data. It can keep track of all of your donations and interactions and things like that. But it can also be if you want to stay on your legacy CRM, depending on which CRM it is, for example, Salesforce or Virtuous Event or Razor's Edge, and there's a lot of others that HubSpot actually has an integration with. So a lot of what Katya is going to demo is what's available in the Marketing Hub. Some of it's also in the Sales Hub. Maybe Katya, when you're demoing, you could just say, is this a Marketing Hub or Sales Hub feature? Because HubSpot has these different hubs, it's actually one of the things we like about it. It allows you to add functionality over time. You don't have to go for everything all at once. Or you could stay on your legacy CRM and actually implement HubSpot Marketing Hub and get a lot of the marketing functionality, but stay on the CRM that you're on. So even if you're not considering a full transition, this webinar is going to be really useful to you to see what's going on. Okay, this is really HubSpot's best for nonprofits who are marketers at heart, who want to engage their constituents, whether it's volunteers, donors, fundraisers, advocates, actual beneficiaries, across multiple channels, meaning email, maybe phone, maybe paid media, even though I promised Katya I wouldn't talk about Facebook ads anymore. Yeah, if you want to engage your constituents across multiple channels and keep track of what's working and what's not working to move somebody to give, this is a great platform. Also, there are a lot of one-on-one communications. The ability to communicate with donors one-on-one across different channels is very easy to keep track of. It is so easy to use. It's intuitive, and the integration with Gmail, if you're using that, or if you're inside the platform, it's just really simple and easy to keep track of the interactions, which is awesome. It is best for organizations who have a lot of email addresses for their donors. If you have a huge offline presence and a big direct mail program and you're processing lots of checks, HubSpot is not the best CRM for you. It really isn't. Email is the unique identifier. There's a workaround, but workarounds have their baggage. So let's just say if you have a lot of contacts with emails, HubSpot's a great CRM, or if you only have some, it might be a good marketing tool. Also, yeah, lots of customization. You have the ability to customize things, but you don't have to hire, this is key, a full-time, um, you might still want someone as like a CRM administrator who like keeps track of the data, but you don't have to have like a highly specialized person. You are specialized, by the way, Katya. I find you to be special. I don't mean to say that, but you don't have to have as high of a technical skill as something like Salesforce requires, or say Microsoft Dynamics requires. Higher technical aptitude for a platform like that. Okay, those are the things that's kind of who it's for. What we love, I already talked about this, easy to use, best in class marketing. It's really easy to track interactions, meaning like all the different touch points with your donors. It's easy to see what are they interested in, what are they engaging with, what are they disinterested in. Easy. There's also new feature with custom objects, which is really cool, and we can do some awesome things with custom objects that we weren't able to do. Honestly, be honest, 2 years ago, HubSpot wouldn't have made the top three. Just wouldn't have. It wasn't possible to do a lot of things that Katya is gonna share with you. Um, it scales with you, so your costs go up as you become more successful, as your contacts list grows. But you can add additional hubs, and that's really nice. Also, and we had a big part in this, pushing HubSpot to offer this. There's a 40% discount for nonprofits on HubSpot, which is awesome. That really helps with the cost, of course. But HubSpot is not for everybody. Here are three things to consider. There are fewer nonprofit specific integrations out of the box compared to a lot of the CRMs that have been around for a while and serving nonprofits. So that's something, if you've got a lot of different platforms that need to integrate with it, you should probably hop on a call with us. We should probably talk about which ones those are. We'll check it out. We'll see if there's an integration natively or not, and we'll help hook you up with a good decision. Some of the automations and functionality is hidden behind higher cost versions of the hub. So, like every software company, they've got their payment where like as you need more features, it gets more expensive. Also, I already talked about this, just not ideal for managing a large volume of offline gifts. They don't have that kind of batch gift processing like Salesforce does, for example. So if that's something, real point of consideration. Okay, last thing before I hand it to you, Katya. Average implementation cost is around $30,000 for a nonprofit because there is some customization. And also, we believe in onboarding. We believe in properly handing you a system that you know how to work and use. So that's about the average cost. And it takes on average about 3 months. So those are the things about HubSpot that we love, that we don't love, and why it made our top three. Awesome. Okay, so handing it over to Katya to demo behind the scenes. Katya, the first thing I would just love to see, and this comes from my time as like leading a fundraising shop, where major gifts were a big part like of our strategy. We really, I think people think of HubSpot as like a marketing solution, and it's easy for mass market fundraising, which it's amazing and powerful at that. But let's actually talk about major gifts. Like, let's say I have a team of major gift officers, and that means there's a frontline fundraiser out there. How might they use like HubSpot to actually engage their portfolio, if you will?
Yeah, that's a great use case for HubSpot. So just kind of diving right into that, what you're seeing right now on your screen is the contact record. So this is going to be your base information for any of your constituents. So this is really going to hold all of the information that you are putting into HubSpot in one easy place for you to work with that data. So you can see I'm gonna use Kelsey on our team as an example here in our demo portal. So let's say Kelsey is a somebody that we've identified as a major gift prospect, and I am a major gift officer, and I want to claim this contact and start working it. So I can come into the contact record. I can see any of the data and information we have stored about Kelsey in here. So this could be all of their contact information. This could be all of their past giving history, whether or not they're subscribed to our marketing emails. And if I actually filter down into the activity, I could even see what types of marketing emails they've been opening, what pages they've been going to on our website, really just that full holistic view of who this person is and how they've been engaging. I can really easily also see what companies they're associated to. So I can see that Kelsey works for the CauseMic Foundation. I could click into CauseMic Foundation and see all of the other employees that are associated with that organization right within the system. I can also see, as I mentioned, all of Kelsey's giving history. So while on the left-hand side, I kind of have this summarized view of total giving, total gifts last year, last gift amount, that sort of thing. I can also jump over here to the right-hand side and see all of those individual gifts that had come in, what their status is, what date they came through, any of that kind of information about the specific gifts. So this makes it really easy for me to see at a glance, okay, who is this person? What have they been doing? And how have they been engaging with my organization? From there, in terms of like claiming this person and adding them to my portfolio, really easily to do, there is just a contact owner field that's natively built into HubSpot that I can say, okay, this contact doesn't currently have an owner, or maybe I see that this person is owned by somebody else on my team, and maybe I need to have a conversation about, hey, if you're not working that person, can I take them over? However, you might want to negotiate that, but I can see if they are currently owned. So let's say I want to claim this person. I'm just going to go ahead and type in my name, click save, and now they are one of my contacts. And what that allows me to do is in other places in HubSpot where I might be filtering through lists of larger groups of contacts, I can always narrow down and filter by, okay, which are the ones that I am the current owner of. I think a really cool thing about HubSpot that I find is not always present in other platforms. Matt, you mentioned Razor's Edge earlier. One of the things that I find really difficult navigating Razor's Edge constituent records is I feel like I can never find the actual data and I can't figure out where to update it. Like, it's just very difficult to actually interact with the data that we have stored about a constituent.
They call that hide and seek. It's a feature
Yes,
of Razor's Edge.
feature of Razor's Edge. There you go. I am good at hide and seek in real life, but not apparently in CRMs. But the nice thing about here is that if I want to see all of the data that we have stored about this contact record, I can actually just click the view all properties option. And now I can start going through every single data point that HubSpot has stored about them. So this could be all of the custom properties I've created, all of the default ones that HubSpot is just managing behind the scenes. I don't have to go pull queries. I don't have to pull reports. I can just dive in and see what is everything that HubSpot knows about this person within a couple clicks. I can also go through and edit any of those fields. So whether I'm on this all properties view or I've selected properties that are most important to me, I can just go through and say, Kelsey is in San Francisco. I should be able to spell this. I used to live there as a kid and I am failing at it right now, but that's great. But so I can go ahead and I can go in and I can edit this right away. So that's just sort of the like general contact. But what if I am pursuing this person now? I've identified Kelsey as a major gift prospect and I'm starting to communicate with her about it. We talked about deals a little bit before, but I want to show you kind of the expanded deal view. So if I pop over to the actual deal object, you can see we have this very different looking view, or now it's all of the deals that are in our system. And so a deal is just what HubSpot calls a gift. So that's their name for it. So anytime I'm mentioning gifts, or anytime I'm mentioning deals, you can just think of gifts. So what this is this allows you to break your gifts and deals into different pipelines. And a pipeline would be a category of gift or a set of different milestones that a gift needs to go through. So for right now, we're on the major gift pipeline. And you can see that we have divided this pipeline into a variety of stages that reflect the major gift process of bringing in a new major donation. So in this case, we've set this up to have prospecting, cultivation, solicitation, verbal commitment, written commitment, et cetera, all the way down to your closed won and your closed lost, your posted and lost. And so what this means is that I can create a new deal for Kelsey. I can give it an amount. I can give it an expected close date. I can start logging any of those interactions. And then as Kelsey and I move through our conversations and we kind of hit these milestones, I can drag and drop any of these deals into their different stages to reflect what's going on with that. You'll notice when I drag that into the written commitment field, we also had this little dependent properties UI pop up. What this is that at any given stage, you can require certain data points be entered in order for a deal to move into that stage. So for example, here, we're requiring a close date and a closed won reason. This could be any number of things. This could be, you need to make sure that when a gift is marked as closed won or written commitment, that you are entering in what designation or fund that gift needs to go to, right? This is all about maintaining that data accuracy, making sure that fields are getting updated when they need to. So being able to manage that through these deal pipelines is super, super helpful. Just to give a little extra idea, I know we're talking major gifts right now, but some of the other common types of pipelines we build out is things like grants, for example. So if you're needing to manage your grant application process, you could create a pipeline that has all of those different elements of the grant application process and be tracking it, firing tasks off when it reaches certain stages. Really, these deal pipelines are your means of helping to automate that overall fundraising and philanthropy process within the system.
I noticed, Katya, when you're going from one pipeline to the next, right, like that,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like the data at the top of is changing based on the
Yeah,
pipeline.
absolutely.
What is that? That's cool.
Yeah, so this is a little summary card for each pipeline. So for example, as I switch between these values in terms of the total amount of deals in the pipeline, what's open, what's closed, how long it's taking us to move a deal from start to finish through the pipeline, this data is all going to be updated based on the individual pipeline that you're looking at. So yeah, you totally nailed it, Matt. If I switch up to grants, we're going to get completely different data there because it's evaluating just the information from the deals that are in that specific pipeline.
Oh, cool. I know also like having that weighted is really nice
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
yeah, when I was trying to do cash flow forecast or like figure out goal to actual against the whole team. It just didn't seem as like cut and dry as yes, this is like depending on the stage I'm imagining or something, there's some
Yes.
probability
Yeah.
shifting.
Exactly. So when you set up your stages, and the nice thing about stages is they're completely customizable. You don't have to use like out of the box HubSpot defined stages. You get to say, okay, here are the milestones that I want to track for any different gift process that I'm tracking.
Hmm.
And when you set up each of those stages, you assign a probability to close. And basically what that means is, okay, based on what I've seen of our giving program, if we get a gift into verbal commitment, more than likely that gift is 60% likely to close.
Mm-hmm.
So what HubSpot is going to do is it's going to say, okay, you have K in total gifts here, but based on your probability to close, your likelihood to close percentage, we're going to give you that weighted number. So it's a little bit more accurate to what your actual revenue is probably going to be at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So that's something that sometimes when people are first setting up these stages, it's a little bit of guesswork. Maybe you don't know exactly what that kind of average close rate is for gifts that reach a certain stage. The nice thing about getting some numbers in there and starting to track this is you could then go back and report on that information and see, of all of the deals that ever reached verbal commitment, how many of them are closed won now, and be able
Yeah.
to see out over any given time period, like what that actual conversion rate is, and then start like updating those stage percentages and probabilities so your data just gets more and more accurate over time.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think the other thing, just for those, watching this out there who are on the fundraising front line, I think what I love is the ability to just filter this report based on my deals, like
Mm-hmm.
the ones that I own, or close date, or just things like that. But if I'm managing a team of fundraisers, I can go look at it for individuals, or I can look at it as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels like just so easy to move from I'm tactically responsible for this is my portfolio and this is where my people are at, to I'm a mid-level manager and I need to keep track of my team, to I'm an executive and I'm thinking about like organizationally wide where
Yeah.
our revenue targets are at. And I just think that that's like really neat to be able to quickly, without having to, yeah, run custom reports and things like that. It's
Yeah,
such a deal
absolutely.
changer.
Basically, the idea of HubSpot is like, let's get the information that each individual needs right at their fingertips as easily as possible. So, exactly, whether you're needing to look at what is my individual performance in terms of the gifts I'm bringing in this year, or if you need to look at it from different managerial levels, it's all very easy to just pull that data in.
Oh, I have one more thing
Yeah.
that I would love to see, Katya. You had mentioned, oh, I could just add this deal for Kelsey. I'd love to show how easy that is because I know when I'm like
Yeah.
out fundraising and I'm like at a coffee shop and I'm like, just want to like get something in so fast, so quick because I'm like busy working with the person. Like,
Hmm.
how fast, how easy is it to actually add one of these things?
Yeah, I'm actually going to show you this from the contact record because I feel like, especially in that example where you're at a coffee shop, you're talking with a prospect. That's probably where you're going to have that information pulled up. So let me go ahead and get back to Kelsey's contact record real quick. So if I'm here on the contact record, I can just go over to the right-hand side. And this is available, I believe, both on desktop and the HubSpot mobile app. So if you're just needing to use your phone to kind of set up some of this information, you can do that as well. But I can just go over here and click add. And then creating a new deal is just as simple as filling out a couple of fields. So let's say that this is the Kelsey Ingram. I think we already have one in there called Major Gift, but let's just call this new Major Gift. Hopefully you have a better naming convention for your gifts in your system. We're going to be able to select the pipeline. So maybe this is a major gift, or maybe we're actually talking about with a organization about a sponsorship or an in-kind deal. Whatever it is, we can go ahead and create it right from here. But so we'll select major gifts. We'll select which stage it's in. Maybe you're actually you had a really great coffee conversation and you got a verbal commitment from them right on that first meeting. You don't have to start this in prospecting. You could just drop it directly into verbal commitment. But wherever it is, you can select that deal stage. We can say this was a $10,000 deal. We can select a donation date. We can actually also apply things like frequency. So if this is something where maybe you are soliciting pledges and you want to be able to track like when those pledges renew or how frequently they're going to be coming in, you could select a frequency. And then also if this is something that you're actually maybe taking a donation right then and there, maybe that person is really, really into this and is like, I'm going to write you a check right now. You could actually record the payment information at that point in time. So if I say check, I can like actually signify that that's what came in. One thing we don't have set up in this demo portal, because it's a little bit of a new functionality that HubSpot recently released, is the ability to do dependent properties within these create forms as well. So for example, I could set up this form so that if I select check as a payment method, it automatically pops up the check date and check number fields as required properties. So again, that idea of maintaining data consistency, making sure that somebody doesn't have to go remember to go back and enter that check number later. If they select check, it's going to pop those properties right up so that they can fill it out then and there very easily.
I love that. Imagining, I don't know if it's on this view. If we keep going down, do we see the task? Okay, it's not here, but you set this magic up for me on ours that I just love, which, and I can access this from Gmail, which is cool, is I can create a task directly on the deal creations. Basically, it's like, yes, as much as I'd love to believe that I convinced this person to give $10,000 on the spot at one coffee meeting, most likely it's like, oh, I have to follow up with this person. So being able to create that task to say, hey, I'm going to send you this really, interesting one pager that we talked about, or I'm going to write you a handwritten note or whatever. I just love how simple it is because I know, like I
Yeah.
said, fundraisers, like we're just not the best at keeping track of tasks.
It's a lot to remember. There's a lot of bits and pieces. Everything's moving. I live and die by my Asana board. So like, I absolutely get it. What you're talking about is we actually set up some custom functionality within CauseMic's own HubSpot instance to help bring up those like task options right within some of the create views. But even if you don't have that set up, that brought up a good point here, which is tasking, which is the ability to, from any of these records, whether I'm on a contact or a gift or a company record, being able to really easily just kind of manage that day-to-day workflow and set up those reminders directly within platform. So whether that's, I'm going to create a task and remind myself to reach back out to this person to do whatever the next steps in our conversation are, I could create that and have it send me reminders to do that. Or maybe I also just need to log some notes about what that conversation was, what's going on with that record, making sure that like my other teammates can come to this this record and see what our past conversations were. In addition to that, there's a variety of other activity types that you can log within the systems. Being able to either log an email that previously happened or actually just send an email to your contact directly out of HubSpot. This feature actually integrates with both Gmail and Outlook as well. So if you prefer to do your emailing in Gmail or Outlook, you can set it up so that you can do all of your emails and respond to things within that system and then have it basically like log those emails automatically within HubSpot. So in terms of making sure that those conversations and that progress with that constituent is recorded somewhere, HubSpot has a lot of those additional features in terms of making sure that everything is interconnected and logged easily. A couple other things I can do here. I can actually schedule a meeting. I don't have my calendar currently hooked up in this one, but you could hook up your calendar. So whether that's your Gmail or your Outlook calendar, and basically like set up a meeting scheduling link that you could then send to that major gift prospect and say, hey, I had a great call today. Let's book another meeting for next week. Here's my availability. And they could just go through and book it directly. Or maybe this wasn't something that you pre-booked and you just need to log that a meeting happened. You can do that as well in the system. So if you had forgotten to schedule one with them through the system and you just need to log that something occurred, or maybe you ran into somebody at a conference, for example, and you want to say like, oh yeah, I ran into so-and-so at this conference and we had this great conversation about X, you can come in here and retroactively log that that meeting happened and then create those to-do tasks afterwards really easily from this view.
Yeah, I love that. And I know we have so much to show, we probably won't show it
I know.
all. But one of the
We
things
could
that
spend hours just
I
going
know,
through all of
yeah,
the different
I don't
like
know if
functionalities
like
and use cases.
if they, whoever you are out there, eventually watching this, Emmy award winning binge worthy uh, uh, tutorial here. But one of the things that I think is so cool is that like you walk through all the manual stuff, which is so easy to use, but also we can do a lot of this stuff auto magically, which is like this
Yes.
term that I like to just create out of nothing that is through sequences, meaning one behavior can actually force these things to happen. Like, so here's like makes me think of this second thing I'd love for you to demo is let's say like I'm a new volunteer and to this nonprofit and I had this, well, what I showed up, like, it just reminds me of Surfrider. One of our clients was like,
Yeah.
okay, they're volunteering on the beach and they were on paper with, like clipboard and they were losing all these leads and nobody was engaging them. And I was like, if somebody has a positive experience at a beach cleanup, we'd love to get them to make a donation. But
Hmm.
obviously, like manually entering all that stuff feels daunting, creating all these tasks and logging all this stuff. Can we do any of this automagically? Like,
Yeah,
can
yeah,
you demo what that might
absolutely.
look like?
For sure. So, one of the tools within HubSpot that is one of its most powerful features is the workflows and sequences tool. So, workflows are going to be kind of the broader scope of automation. You can do basically anything with a workflow. Sequences are a little bit more specific to like those one-to-one conversations, sending one-to-one emails, tasking, things like that. So right now I'm going to talk mostly about workflows, but the sequences is another automation tool that exists within HubSpot. So let's go ahead and just build out a workflow together, and I can show you kind of how easy this is to create. So I'm going to create a workflow, and because you're talking about a new volunteer, right, that's a contact. So I'm going to create a contact-based workflow. Now, we could get this information about the fact that this new contact has joined the system as a volunteer in a couple of different ways. This could be literally that person has that clipboard of signups from the beach cleanup. It's got their name and their email address, and they're importing that information into HubSpot, right? They typed it into a CSV and they upload it. The other way that we could get that information is through an integration with a volunteer platform. So, for example, you brought up Surfrider earlier. I believe they ended up integrating with Golden as a volunteer management tool. The way that whole process works is a new volunteer signs up through Golden, they attend a beach cleanup, and then that information is synced back over to HubSpot, and we know now who that person is, when they volunteered, what they volunteered for, all of that juicy data. So let's say that that's now happened. So we had a person sign up as a volunteer. It's the first time they've ever volunteered, and now we want to curate that journey for that new contact, right? So what you set up as your entry criteria could be different depending on, again, how you're getting that information into your system. I'm going to keep this relatively simple for this demonstration. We just have a volunteer field that is a Boolean yes, no. So we're setting that through a different process, but we now have identified this is a new volunteer. So this is a new volunteer, and the way that we see that, hey, this is actually a new contact to us is through their create date. So we say it's a new volunteer and their create date is less than 1 day ago. So they were created in the last 24 hours. Great, cool. So we've set up our enrollment criteria. We're going to bring in any new contacts that have just been created who are volunteers. But maybe we want to check and see like, hey, actually, has this volunteer donated before, right? Maybe they volunteered and went online and made a donation in the same space of time. We don't want to ask them to make their first donation because they've already made their first donation. So what we can do here is we can actually like look at that data within the workflow to provide a different experience for a new volunteer who has previously donated versus one who has never donated before. So we're just going to use and or logic here. And I'm not going to go into like the full nitty gritty of like building out the different options for branches, but let's just say that the contact has a total revenue, right? Because we're logging all of those gifts and donations, your online donation platform is integrated. We can see that they have a total revenue in their constituent that is greater than zero. And so what this was, you would say, okay, if that total revenue, if the sum of all of their deals that have been logged in the system is greater than zero, they've already given before. We don't need to ask them for their first donation. If they haven't, then we want to, let's say, send them a marketing email, for example. And this is where I think I forgot to do it in the first demo. I apologize. But being able to send a marketing email would be part of your marketing hub functionality. So sending those stylized emails that are coming from CauseMic.com as opposed to coming from me, Katya Manges, those are going to be your marketing emails. So if I want to send a marketing email, I can create the email in the system and then just select it from the variety of emails that I have. I don't have an exact example of a fundraising email right now, but that system is now going to send that contact that donation appeal email that you created if they meet this criteria. But let's say actually we wanted to sort this. Maybe this is actually like a major donor who just volunteered for the first time, right? We don't want to send them a mass appeal donation request because they're one of our major donors. What we could do instead is we could create a task or a reminder for somebody on our internal team to reach out to that major donor and say like, hey, how was your volunteer experience? Like, saw that you attended our beach cleanup. How was that? What was your experience with it? That is something else that we could do within one of these workflows. So again, it's that ability to customize what the actual interaction is with that contact based on all of the information that you have stored within the system about them. So whether that is being able to automate just sending out that email, or it's being able to automate a reminder to the owner of that contact that they should reach out to that person, the workflows are going to be able to do all of that. So you just set up, what are the actions I want to have happen? And then the automation is going to run all of that for you, as Matt said, automatically once you get it set up. And then it's going to just continue running in the background. You don't have to go in and continuously add people to this. You don't have to go through and make sure you run these automations on a schedule. It's just going to say, anytime somebody meets that initial entry criteria you set up, add them to this workflow and make this happen. And that is, I think, one of the biggest like time savers of HubSpot, is being able to take these processes that may have been very manual, might have required you to like query a list and then send out the email on a regular basis. That could just happen as the information is coming in. So it means that people are getting those communications a lot faster because the system is doing it at that moment of conversion, as opposed to 2 weeks later when you actually pull the list of new volunteers and send out the welcome email.
I also love that you can exclude people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so easy to build a static list. For example, Katya could have a whole workflow just on, or, basically on that, right? An example might be, again, like let's say the major gift example that you provided. Maybe you actually have a static list of major donors or
Mm-hmm.
people who've given in the last 90 days, or, insert any number of these typical things, or maybe a monthly donor. And it's really easy to exclude them so that you could then,
Yeah.
or you can build a little logic branch and say, no, actually, we want to call out that you're a monthly donor. We still want you to get something, but we want to acknowledge the fact that you
Mm-hmm.
are giving more, or a special group, or maybe you were referred by a board member and there's some sort of affiliation there. Like, the ability to actually exclude or include or customize this stuff, there's just so much more to demo. We don't have to do it all for this purpose, but imagine that too. In the email, that there's these cool templates, and you can customize things within that template based on any field on the contact. So it's just so exciting. I totally wish I had this when I was fundraising at Team Rubicon. It would have just been, so awesome and so much easier. But
You have it now, Matt. It's okay. The dark days
we
are
have it
behind
now.
you.
We have it now. We have it now. Okay, this was awesome. I'm thinking maybe we have one time. Do we have time? Do we have enough time for one more of your? Do
Yeah,
you
I can definitely
carve
stay
that
on.
out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. Okay, so one of the things I love so much about HubSpot that I think other people will too is that it kind of like gives life to what you just described in a way. HubSpot like has the ability to react to a constituent's behavior.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking like I have this portfolio of major donors, like you just showed me. Here's my pipeline. Here's the ones that I own, right? And you just showed me a workflow, which was really cool. That like a volunteer. I'm kind of curious, like what happens if a major donor like comes to our website or like maybe a specific page or maybe clicks on an email, like how can that, what does that do? Like how does that
Yeah.
help me
Yeah.
with my job?
I think one of the really cool things about HubSpot, and I know I keep saying that, this is kind of day to day, so everything is really cool about HubSpot. But one of the things that I love is being able to marry both that kind of like donation and programmatic and volunteer data with also their day-to-day interactions with something like your website. So I think a great example of this is that we've heard kind of requested before is like, hey, how do we know who's visiting our legacy giving page and how do we interact with that? So let's say again that you were talking about I have my portfolio of major donors and I want to know I want to reach out to them if they are coming and visiting our legacy giving, or maybe we have a another like any other pages on our website that are about additional opportunities that I could reach out to them about. So once again, we're going to jump right into the workflow tool. Again, this is one of those places where you end up spending quite a lot of time in here when you're building out your HubSpot, because it's just the easiest way to the easiest way. It is an easy way to make sure that these sorts of interactions are not just getting lost in the black hole of the internet void. So one of the things that HubSpot provides you with is a website pixel. So this is a small piece of code that goes onto your website that is able to track who people are and what pages they're visiting. So for example, if you've used like a Google Analytics before, you're able to see people coming to your website and visiting pages, but you're not always able to see like, okay, was that Matt Smith or Matt Scott that actually like came and visited, or was that just, and like Google Analytics is just going to show you an anonymous visit, right? That doesn't actually, that gives you information in terms of, oh, people are visiting or legacy giving, but that doesn't tell you who it was or if they are actually prospective legacy givers. With HubSpot, they are able to tie that cookie on the browser to the actual contact record. So I can see that Matt Scott actually visited our website and I can take action off of that. So let's do really quickly just what that looks like. So within the different available triggers for your workflow, there are page views. And so what I can say is contact had viewed at least one URL containing, and let's say our legacy giving page just is called, cosmicfoundation.com/legacy. So I can say that they viewed this page and I can even refine this. I can say they viewed it multiple times or they viewed it within the last 20 days, for example. So if I want to get that like really close view of like somebody who is looking at that right now, who is been engaging in the last couple of days with the legacy giving page, I can. But so we're going to say has viewed at least one page with the URL containing legacy. And we're also going to say that the contact owner, right, is me, because I want to only get this interaction if they're viewing my contacts. Now, an interesting thing here is that idea of setting up a personal workflow versus setting up a workflow for your organization, right? Like if I define this as my contacts here in the enrollment criteria, this workflow now has to be recreated for other people. We don't necessarily want to do that, right? We want to create one for workflow that manages this, whoever the major gift officer is. So instead of adding this here, what we would do instead is we can manage this within the actions that we actually want to take place. So let's say the contact views the legacy gift page, and we want to assign a task to the contact owner of whoever that contact is to reach out to them about legacy giving. I mentioned the ability to add tasks through workflows earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and create a task here. And what I can do is when I do the assignment for it, I can actually say just the existing contact owner. So what that means is if I already have contact owners defined, I don't have to make different tasks for different owners or different teams or anything like that. I can just say, whoever the contact owner is, assign this task to them. The other aspect that I think is really cool here is what if that contact is in the system and they're viewing the legacy giving and maybe they've made a few donations in the past, but they haven't quite made it onto any of your major gift portfolios, or they're not owned by anyone yet, right? Like nobody's claimed them from the bucket. We can also manage that assignment of that contact right within this workflow. So there's a couple different ways to do that. We could create branches that says like, oh, if they've given over this amount, assign it to this person or this team specifically. Or if we just want to say, hey, anyone who's meeting this criteria, we just want to assign them to one of our major gift officers in a round robin format, right? We want to make sure nobody's getting overloaded. So what we can do is we can use the, rotate record to owner action. So what this means is that we're going to define either a specific set of users or specific teams. So if you just want to select anybody that's currently on a part of your philanthropy team, we can add that to this. And then what it'll do is it will alternate the assignment between each person in those teams. So in terms of being able to manage that automatic assignment, make sure that it's coming in and make sure that no one person is either getting unqualified contacts or getting overloaded, getting new assignments all the time. This is a functionality that can help manage that process and make sure that somebody is always getting assigned to reach out to those people who are meeting some of those qualifying actions.
And what's cool too about what Katya is describing is I asked them to kind of describe this use case on, well, for major gifts, and they're doing a great job with the legacy piece. And but I'm also thinking like I've served on boards of nonprofits, and I've been asked to, engage with contacts, with interested donors, with major donors, and that round robin feature is cool because you don't have to actually necessarily be a user. I get emails from Katya's Workflow Magic with CauseMic stuff where everything I need is in the email. So
Mm-hmm.
all the details, it's like, oh, I need to call this donor, I need to thank them, or I need to write them a letter or whatever. You can actually round robin this thing with other people. So you could see that there's like so many applications that you could use this for, which I think is cool. It's like you're a major gift officer, or you're a leader, or you're a part of the board, or you're a volunteer, or insert whatever, and you can basically create these journeys
Yeah, yeah.
and decision trees, which is really cool.
I think always one of like the biggest like question marks in terms of like implementing some of these functionalities is people kind of go, there's so many options. What do I even start with? And so I think the two things that I always recommend when we're implementing for a client is what are processes right now that currently take up a lot of manual staff time? So where staff is having to manage a lot of data, either updates or entry, or just like that background process of making the thing happen is taking up a lot of time and is kind of a tedious process. That's a great thing that might be best to look and see, can we automate that? Can we make that easier? And then I think the other thing is really like, what are your missed opportunities? So like, where are
Hmm.
you like, oh, and like we get all these people going to our legacy giving page, but nobody's reaching out to them. Nobody's communicating with those people. Those are missed opportunities, right? For that connection point. So
Yeah,
I think starting to think about those two things, like what's tedious and manual and what is
yeah,
missing, are great places to kind of dive into like, could we automate this?
yeah. That was literally the example of the Surfrider that we were using, right? It's like
Mhm.
it was a manual process to keep track of people who are coming to these in-person volunteer beach cleanups.
Yeah.
And what a missed opportunity. There were thousands, literally tens of thousands of new contacts that were not engaged every single year. And so that was like the perfect overlay of
Yeah.
your Venn diagram of easy.
Well, I think that one is a great example too, because what we came to realize is that like a new don't or a new volunteer was actually like one of the most likely audiences of like new
Yeah,
contacts to make a donation. And
yeah,
so being able to tie that in and make sure that we were like requesting that donation at the time when they were really psyched up about that recent volunteer experience, right? They just
Yep.
went and cleaned up the beach and it's feel good and
Yep.
it's great. Being able to hit them with that timely donation ask was actually like really increasing the amount of donations we got from that audience. And being able to just like identify that, automate it, make it happen, and see the result of it, like that's just like that's the ideal, right? That's what you want out of
Yeah.
every workload that you plug into HubSpot.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. They're all that successful.
Every
Definitely.
single one,
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay, with the few minutes that we have left, we promise
Yeah.
people to tell them how does an implementation work? Like we
Mhm.
got a little sample of the HubSpot magic. How can we go about implementing HubSpot?
Okay, so what you're looking at right now is kind of our standard implementation timeline, right? Like every nonprofit is going to be a little bit different. Your needs are going to be different from the next one. But in general, what we see is the majority of nonprofits fall into this kind of like 6 to 8 week process. The first couple of weeks is usually sitting down after you've made the decision of, where you want to go with this CRM, we want to go with this product. And I think Matt, I know you can probably talk a little bit after this about like, how do we make that decision? But once you've made the decision, then it's usually about a 2 to 3 week period of discovery, right? So if you're working with our team, we would sit down with your user base, so whoever's going to be using the systems, and go, okay, what are the actual things that you need this system to accomplish for you? What kind of data points do you need to have? What are the workflows that we want to build out to make your life easier in the system? Who needs to be in there and what access to what functionality do they all need to have, right? So really the nitty gritty of like, what are the minute details of what this system should be at the end of it? Then we would go into the build phase where we're actually building out all of that functionality for you. So making sure all of those properties and fields and data points are ready to go in the system and are formatted correctly. Maybe it's drop downs here and checkboxes there, multi-select over here, whatever it is, roll up fields, anything that is kind of that back end, like making sure the data gets stored in the right way. Then really comes your data migration. So whatever your platform you're coming out of or whatever spreadsheets you're currently using to track, right? We have to figure out how to get that data, that existing information into HubSpot. So that might be, simpler. Maybe you just have like an email program right now. You're using MailChimp and you just need to import those contacts and get them into the system and start tracking that. Or maybe on the other hand, you're using dozens of separate spreadsheets to track all of your different constituents, and every staff member has a different spreadsheet, right? Whatever it is, we've got to get that data into a format that then can be uploaded into HubSpot. Once that data is in HubSpot, then it's like the fun part of this, right? This is where we actually get to train you on the system, take you through, here's all the functionality that's built out. Is this what you were expecting? Is it working? Really get your hands dirty within the system now that the system is built and the data is in there. And as I mentioned, like training and that ongoing post go live support. So really it is the period of time where you are starting to actualize all of these processes that you defined in the discovery stage within HubSpot. And we're walking along with you step by step along the way. So if you're saying, okay, I need to go through that process of entering a new major gift, starting to walk through it and do that and enter that information, and having our support there with you to make sure that as questions come up, you have somebody that is knowledgeable in the system to make sure that you're not stumbling at all and that user adoption goes well, right? Because that's always the kicker at the end of any of these implementations, is making sure that people actually use the system. And I find that the easiest way is if they know how to use the system, if they're confident in taking those actions, then they're going to use the system in general because it's easy and smooth and it's better than plugging it into a spreadsheet, which they
I
might be
love
more used to.
I love that you're bringing that up, Katya, because even here at CauseMic, right? Like we use HubSpot. This is our jam. And even still, like we have our regular check-in with you
Mhm.
where our sales and marketing team is coming and saying, hey, this is our user experience. This is what we're trying to do. This is like a new opportunity that we see. And we actually get to go over that with you. And then you
Yeah.
make modifications for us and you make our life easier and you make us more effective. And I think that what you're displaying here is like, here's our standard implementation timeline. And then
Yeah.
that post go live support that you described, that's where you really start to see traction, where you start to see
Mhm.
ROI, is you have a work plan basically to come back and visit this thing and actually do it in a way that feels tangible and real. I just love that you do that with us. So it's something cool that I hope clients love too.
Yeah, one of my favorite things in those calls is, Matt, when you're like, I started using the tasking functionality, and I'm like, yes!
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm so glad
exactly.
that you found a use for it.
Exactly. I love it too because I feel like it's discovery and then you're making modifications for us
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you're always learning about the new features, which feel like they're coming out every week with
Oh
HubSpot.
my
Is like
gosh.
more
Yeah,
opportunity. And so yeah, it's pretty great.
fantastic. I have a second slide here that is just kind of it's the same process for an advanced integration, but just kind of wanted to touch on it real quick that if you are an organization that has, as Matt mentioned, tons of integrations that need to come in, maybe you're migrating from a more complex platform like a Razor's Edge that the data doesn't come out in the cleanest format, it might be something where that implementation process is a little bit longer. Generally, we haven't seen any implementations that take longer than 6 months. Those are like really, really complex ones, but did just want to give you that little bit of a gut check of like, how complex is your organization? Where might you be looking at in terms of implementation timeline?
Yeah, love that. Okay.
Okay.
So yes, we have a couple of ways to help continue to support you. If you're fired up and excited about what you saw here in HubSpot demo, but you still have outstanding questions or you're curious, how does this apply to me? We're here to help you. And yeah, we exclusively serve nonprofits. We help them really put in place those best in class kind of technology. But I think the differentiator, in my opinion, between us and a lot of other firms is we actually align your technology with your fundraising and marketing strategy. So we kind of shared a little bit about how that works today and how it actually comes to life. But our team is highly skilled fundraisers and marketers and technologists, and we know the nonprofit space inside and out. And so we're eager to help you. We're eager to help you select and implement the best technology and make the most of it and to join our like long list of very happy customers. We're always looking to grow that list. So yeah, and then also on our last slide, we have how to get in touch with us. We have a phone number, we have an email, we have a website, and we have this QR code. There's all these different ways. And if you access this video, most likely we have your contact info and you're going to get a workflow and but we aim to deliver value. So yeah, give us a call. Let's set up some time. We'll go through your specific use case, your specific questions. Yeah, and this is not a sales pitch. It's literally come, ask us questions, and if we're the right fit, great. If we're not, that's okay too. But we have lots of cool resources that our team has developed over the years, not just for HubSpot, but for other platforms, and we're more than happy to share those with you. And thank you if you've made it this far in the video. Wow,
Yeah. I appreciate you sitting
amazing.
through my just long,
Yeah, I,
all
I
of the examples.
I hear Bobby now being like, let's just cut the first part that you did, Matt, out, and we're just going straight to the demo. So maybe this video wasn't even that long. That's possible too. So
Whatever, however long you watched it for, thank you.
exactly.
If you're here for 5 minutes watching it on 2.5x speed, great. Love you
That's
too.
exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you, Katya, for making the time and space for
Yeah, thanks so
this.
much,
It's
Matt.
awesome to have time with you.